How rich people never work but make millions. Introduction: The $10 million Paradox. Picture this. Warren Buffett is sitting in his office in Omaha, reading the newspaper and drinking his daily Coca-Cola. Down the hall, his assistant is fielding calls from reporters. Meanwhile, his investments are making him $37 million that day. He didn't check his email 200 times. He didn't attend back-to-back meetings. He didn't stress about deadlines. Yet he made more money in 24 hours than most people make in a lifetime. How is this possible? Here's what blew my mind when I first discovered this. Rich people don't actually stop working. They just stop trading time for money. There's a huge difference. Think about your current job. When you stop working, your paycheck stops too, right? But Warren Buffett's money keeps flowing whether he's awake or asleep, whether he's on vacation or sick in bed. What's the real secret here? Rich people build systems that work without them. While most people sell their time, wealthy people sell results. While most people are employees in their own lives, rich people become the owners. But here's the thing that nobody talks about. This isn't about luck or inheritance or secret connections. It's about understanding a completely different way to think about work and money. And today I'm going to show you exactly how they do it. Not the theory, not the motivation, the actual systems they use, the real strategies they implement. A step-by-step process you can start using today. Ready? Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Asset versus Income Mindset. Let me ask you something. What did you do yesterday to make money? If you're like most people, you probably went to work. You traded 8 hours of your life for a paycheck. You sold your time. Now let me ask you this. What did Jeff Bezos do yesterday to make money? He probably slept 8 hours. Maybe he read a book, had dinner with friends, went for a walk. Yet Amazon's stock price went up and he made millions. See the difference? Most people have what I call an income mindset. They think money comes from working harder, working longer, or getting promoted. But rich people have an asset mindset. They know money comes from owning things that generate value. Let me break this down for you. When you have a job, you're basically renting yourself out. You get paid for showing up. You get paid for your time. But the moment you stop showing up, the money stops flowing. When you own assets, you get paid for value creation. And here's the beautiful part. Value gets created whether you're there or not. Think about a rental property. Does the rent check care if you're sleeping? Does it stop coming because you're on vacation? Of course not. The asset works for you. Here's where most people get confused. They think assets are just for rich people. They think you need millions to start. That's completely wrong. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's a teacher in Ohio. 3 years ago, she was living paycheck to paycheck. Today, she makes $4,000 a month from assets. She still teaches because she loves it, but she doesn't have to anymore. How did she do it? She started small, really small. She bought a $300 online course about digital marketing, and she used that knowledge to help local businesses with their websites. Instead of just doing the work herself, she hired other people to do it. She became the owner of a system. Now she has 12 people working for her business. She spends maybe 10 hours a week managing everything. The rest of the time, her system runs itself. That's the power of the asset mindset. But wait, there's something even more important here. It's not just about the money. It's about freedom. When you trade time for money, you're trapped. You can't make more money without working more hours. You can't take a vacation without losing income. You can't get sick without financial stress. When you own assets, you're free. Your money isn't tied to your time. Your income isn't tied to your location. Your wealth isn't tied to your health. Warren Buffett figured this out when he said something that changed my entire perspective on money. He said, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. Think about that for a second. How many people do you know who are working jobs they hate just to pay bills? How many people are stressed about money even though they work 50 or 60 hours a week? That's what happens when you have an income mindset instead of an asset mindset. So here's my question for you. Right now, what percentage of your income comes from assets versus active work? If it's 0%, don't worry. We're going to change that. If it's already something, we're going to multiply it. Because once you understand the 4 types of passive income systems, everything changes. Chapter 2, the 4 types of passive income systems. Okay, let's get practical. When rich people talk about passive income, they're not talking about some get-rich-quick scheme. They're talking about 4 very specific types of systems. Think of these like 4 different machines. Each machine works differently, but they all have one thing in common. Once you build them and set them up properly, they generate money without requiring your constant attention. Let me walk you through each one. System number 1 is rental income. This is probably the most obvious one. You buy something. Other people use it. They pay you for that privilege. Now, most people think this just means real estate. Buy a house, rent it out, collect the checks. And yes, that's one way to do it. But rental income is much bigger than that. Think about it. What else can you rent out? Your car, when you're not using it. Your camera equipment. Your parking space. Even your brain. Wait, let me explain that last one. When you license your knowledge, you're essentially renting out your brain. That's what authors do with book royalties. That's what inventors do with patents. That's what software developers do with app sales. Let me tell you about Marcus. He's a photographer in Los Angeles. 5 years ago, he was struggling to book enough weddings to pay his bills. Then he had a brilliant idea. Instead of just taking photos, he started licensing his photos to stock photography websites. Now he has over 10,000 photos in his portfolio. Every month, people download his photos and he gets paid. Sometimes $5, sometimes $50, sometimes $500. Last month, he made $8,000 from photos he took years ago. Photos he took once and forgot about. That's rental income from intellectual property. System number 2 is business ownership, but not the kind where you're running around like a crazy person trying to do everything yourself. I'm talking about owning a business that runs without you. You have systems and people in place to handle the day-to-day operations. Ray Kroc figured this out with McDonald's. He didn't want to flip burgers. He didn't want to manage employees. He wanted to own a system that could be replicated anywhere in the world. Today, there are 40,000 McDonald's restaurants. Ray Kroc has been dead for decades. But his system still generates billions of dollars every year. Now, you don't need to build the next McDonald's, but you can use the same principle. Here's what I mean. Instead of being a freelance web designer, you build a web design agency. You hire other designers. You create processes and systems. You focus on getting clients and managing quality. The actual work gets done by your team. System number 3 is investment. This is where your money works for you instead of you working for money. When you buy stocks that pay dividends, you're getting paid just for owning them. When you buy bonds, you're getting paid. When you invest in a profitable company, you get a share of the profits. The beautiful thing about investment income is that it scales. If you invest $1,000 and get a 10% return, you make $100. If you invest $100,000 and get the same return, you make $10,000. Same effort, different results. Warren Buffett has mastered this system. Berkshire Hathaway owns pieces of hundreds of companies. Every quarter, those companies send him dividend checks. Last year, Berkshire Hathaway received over $5 billion in dividend income alone. System number 4 is digital assets. This is the newest category, but it's growing faster than any of the others. When you create something digital that can be sold over and over again, you've built a digital asset. Online course, a mobile app, a YouTube channel, a blog with advertising revenue. The amazing thing about digital assets is that they have almost no marginal cost. It costs the same to sell one copy of an online course as it does to sell 10,000 copies. Look at what happened with Minecraft. Marcus Persson built that game in his spare time. He sold it to Microsoft for $2.5 billion. Even before the sale, it was generating millions in revenue every one game, built once, generating income for years. Now, here's the key insight that most people miss. The wealthiest people don't just use one of these systems. They use all 4. They own rental properties and businesses. They have investment portfolios and digital assets. They diversify their passive income across multiple systems. Why? Because it's safer, and because they compound each other. The cash flow from one system can be reinvested into another system. The profits from your business can buy more rental properties. The dividends from your stocks can fund the development of digital assets. Before we move on, let me ask you this. Which of these 4 systems sounds most interesting to you right now? Which one matches your current skills and situation? Because the system you choose matters less than actually getting started. The important thing is to stop trading time for money and start building assets that work for you. But building these systems isn't magic. There's a specific process, and that's what we're going to cover next. Chapter 3. Building systems that work without you. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. Building a system that works without you is hard work up front. But it's the best kind of hard work, because once it's done, it keeps paying you forever. Think about it like planting a tree. You dig the hole, you plant the seed, you water it every day. For months, you see almost nothing. Then one day, you have fruit. And that tree keeps giving you fruit for decades. Most people want the fruit without planting the tree. That's why they stay stuck, trading time for money. But here's the good news. Building systems is a skill you can learn. And there's a proven process. Let me show you exactly how McDonald's does it. Because if you understand their system, you can apply the same principles to any business. McDonald's doesn't just sell hamburgers. They sell a complete system. Every McDonald's in the world follows the exact same processes. Same ingredients. Same cooking times. Same customer service scripts, same cleaning procedures. Why does this matter? Because it means any McDonald's can run without the owner being there. The system is bigger than any individual person. If someone quits, you replace them and train them on the system. If a manager goes on vacation, someone else can step in and follow the same procedures. That's the power of what they call SOPs. Standard operating procedures. Let me break this down into 3 simple steps you can use in any business. Step 1 is document everything. Write down every process in your business. How do you find customers? How do you deliver your product or service? How do you handle customer complaints? How do you manage money? Most business owners keep everything in their heads. Big mistake. Because if it's in your head, only you can do it. If it's written down, anyone can learn it. I learned this lesson the hard way. I used to run a consulting business where I was the bottleneck for everything. I had to be involved in every client call, every proposal, every project delivery. I was making good money, but I was trapped. Then I started documenting my processes. I wrote down exactly how I analyzed a client's business, how I created recommendations, how I presented results, how I followed up. Suddenly, I could train other people to do what I was doing. I went from being an employee in my own business to being the owner of a system. Step 2 is automate what you can. Technology can handle a lot of routine tasks better than humans. It never calls in sick or asks for a raise. Email marketing can be automated. Invoicing can be automated. Appointment scheduling can be automated. Social media posting can be automated. Customer service can be partially automated with chatbots. The goal isn't to replace humans completely. It's to free up humans to do the high-value work that requires creativity and judgment. Step 3 is delegate the rest. Once you have documented processes and automated systems, you can hire people to handle everything else. But here's the key. You're not just hiring employees. You're hiring people to run your systems. They follow your procedures. They use your tools. They deliver your standards of quality. This is how Sam Walton built Walmart. He created systems for everything. How to stock shelves, how to price products, how to train employees, how to manage inventory. Those systems allowed Walmart to grow to thousands of stores without Sam having to personally manage each one. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great for big businesses, but what about someone like me? Let me tell you about David. He's a guy who started a lawn care business in Texas. At first, it was just him with a truck and a mower. He was working 60 hours a week, and then he applied these 3 steps. First, he documented everything: how to estimate a job, which equipment to use for different types of yards, how to schedule efficiently, how to follow up with customers. Second, he automated what he could. He got software to handle scheduling and billing. He set up automatic email reminders for customers. He used GPS tracking to optimize routes. Third, he started hiring and training people to follow his systems. He taught them exactly how he wanted the work done. He gave them the tools and processes to succeed. Today, David owns 12 trucks and employs 24 people. He spends most of his time finding new customers and improving his systems. Last year, his business generated $800,000 in revenue. And he works about 20 hours a week. That's the power of building systems. Here's what's really important. You don't have to start big. You can apply these principles to any income-generating activity. Let's say you're a freelance graphic designer. Instead of just designing logos yourself, you could document your design process, create templates and style guides, then hire other designers to follow your system while you focus on finding clients and managing quality. Or let's say you want to get into real estate investing. You don't just buy one property and manage it yourself. You create systems for finding deals, analyzing properties, managing tenants, and maintaining buildings. Then you hire property managers to run those systems while you focus on finding more deals. The key is to think like an owner, not an employee. Employees do the work. Owners build systems that do the work. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds great, but how do you actually make the transition? How do you go from trading time for... That's exactly what we're going to cover next. Chapter 4, the transition strategy. Here's the biggest mistake people make when they try to build passive income. They quit their jobs on day 1 and expect everything to work out. That's like jumping out of an airplane without checking if your parachute works. Smart, rich people don't do this. They build their systems while they still have a safety net. They transition gradually. They reduce their risk at every step. Let me show you the exact strategy they use. It's called the 4-phase transition. And it works whether you're starting with $100 or $100,000. Phase 1 is foundation building. This is where you keep your day job, but start building your first system on the side. The goal isn't to make a lot of money yet. The goal is to prove the concept and learn the skills. Want to pick one type of passive income system and focus completely on that. Remember Sarah, the teacher I mentioned? She didn't quit teaching to start her digital marketing business. She spent 3 months learning the skills. Then she got her first client, then her second, then her third. She kept teaching full-time for an entire year while she built her business on nights and weekends. Only when her business was generating $3,000 a month consistently did she reduce her teaching to part-time. Most people are too impatient for this phase. They want instant results. But foundation building is the most important phase. This is where you develop the skills and systems that will support everything else. Phase 2 is income replacement. This is where your passive income systems start generating real money, enough to cover some of your basic expenses. The target for this phase is to replace about 25% of your current income with passive income. So if you make $4,000 a month from your job, you want to generate $1,000 a month from your systems. Why 25%? Because it's achievable but meaningful. It's enough to give you breathing room and confidence, but not so much that during this phase you reinvest most of your passive income back into growing your systems. If you have a rental property, you use the cash flow to buy another property. If you have a business, you use the profits to hire more people or expand into new markets. Phase 3 is security building. This is where passive income becomes your primary source of income. You're generating enough to cover all your basic living expenses. The target for this phase is to replace 75% to 100% of your current income. At this point, you have real financial security. You could live off your passive income if you had to. This is when most people feel comfortable leaving their traditional job. But here's what's interesting. Many people choose not to. They love the security of having both income sources. They use their job income for lifestyle expenses and reinvest all their passive income into building more systems. Phase 4 is wealth acceleration. This is where passive income exceeds your living expenses by a significant margin. You have more money coming in than you know what to do with. This is when compound growth really kicks in. Your systems are generating so much cash flow that you can invest in bigger and better opportunities. You can take more risks because you have a solid foundation. This is where people like Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos live. Passive income is so large that they can afford to make billion-dollar investments and not worry about the outcome. Now here's the key question. How long does this process take? It depends on several factors. How much time can you dedicate to building systems? How much money can you invest up front? How quickly can you learn new skills? What type of systems are you building? But here's a realistic timeline based on what I've seen work for hundreds of people. Foundation building typically takes 6 to 18 months. Income replacement takes another 12 to 24 months. Security building takes another 18 to 36 months. Wealth acceleration can take anywhere from 3 to 10 years. So we're talking about a 4 to 8 year process to go from zero passive income to complete financial freedom. That might sound like a long time. But think about it this way. 8 years is going to pass whether you build these systems or not. The question is, where do you want to be 8 years from now? Still trading time for money? Or collecting checks from systems that work without you? But here's the most important part of the transition strategy. Risk management. Rich people don't risk money they can't afford to lose. They don't bet everything on one opportunity. They diversify their investments and always have backup plans. When you're building your systems, you need to think the same way. Keep your day job until your passive income can support you. Build emergency funds. Start small and scale gradually. Don't invest money you need for basic living expenses. This isn't about getting rich quick. It's about getting rich safely and sustainably. Let me give you one final example that ties everything together. Meet Jennifer. 3 years ago, she was a nurse making $60,000 a year. She was good at her job, but she was tired of the long hours and emotional stress. She decided to build passive income systems using the 4-phase approach. In foundation building, she started a blog about healthy living. She spent 6 months learning about content creation, SEO, and email marketing. She built an audience of 5,000 subscribers. In income replacement, she created an online course about meal planning for busy professionals. She launched it to her email list and made $15,000 in the first month. She reinvested that money in advertising and grew her email list to 20,000 subscribers. In security building, she launched 2 more courses and started an affiliate marketing program. She was generating $5,000 to $8,000 per month consistently. She reduced her nursing hours to part-time. Now she's in wealth acceleration. Her online business generates over $15,000 per month. She's launching a membership site and considering buying rental properties with her excess cash flow. She still works as a nurse 2 days a week because she enjoys helping people. But she doesn't have to. Her systems generate more than enough to support her lifestyle. That's the power of the 4-phase transition strategy. Here's my challenge for you. Don't just listen to this and do nothing. Pick one type of passive income system. Commit to spending the next 6 months building your foundation. Document your progress. Learn from your mistakes. Stay consistent. Because here's the truth. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is today. Your future self will thank you for starting now. The only question left is this. What's your first step going to be?